Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, August 29th. Yes, it is a Thursday. Yes, we normally record on Tuesday or Wednesday. Yes, I may have slept in on Tuesday or Wednesday. Welcome back to No Butts About It, everyone. I am Josh Butts in my dining room in Indiana. Chus is in his very dark basement in Pittsburgh for some reason.
I don't know. I mean, you always mention the lighting, but I can't
I
do
don't know.
anything about it. I mean, I can. I think I did try to change the setting one time for the brightness on the camera the Nexiga. Not because I think this camera alone is dark. I think when it came to buying it on Amazon, I think some of the reviews said that sometimes the quality can be a little darker than usual. It is dark down here. I've many people have told me that it's dark down here, and I kind of like it like that. These light bulbs are some sort of like weird light things. But I mean, if you've looked in like even in the intro and stuff like that, when I've had the camera that isn't covering this now, well, I mean, I guess you won't be able to see it even if I move this. But the one that I used where it was like super blurry and stuff, some of those were really bright. So I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just the camera.
I don't know. Tuesday, though, it was very dark in my bedroom where I was asleep because I was out. And for those of you who don't know, I work nights. And so I have to sleep during the day, obviously. And Chus had texted me. He was responsible. And he was all like, "Hey, are we still recording?" And I was gone to the
Yeah,
world.
because I have this little notebook of things that I have to get done, and on Tuesday, August 27th, it said Josh record 4 p.m. and it never got scratched out because I never got it done. And there was actually a lot of things I didn't get done on Tuesday and that I ended up just forgetting about. So
and they're all my fault.
Yeah, it's all your fault. I only got the thing that I had to do at 5:30, and then the class. I don't really know what. Yeah, it was weird. I guess I just skipped around a lot.
After that, it was just a downhill spiral. I threw everything off.
Yeah,
Well, today is Thursday, and we've got some football to talk about. First of all, we're going to run through some quick headlines that we're not going to necessarily talk about for a long time, but I think should at least be mentioned. So Deshaun Watson, the Browns restructured his contract to clear up $36 million in cap space. And I believe they now have like $63 million in cap space, which I also believe is the most in the NFL. So are they about to make a move? Did they want $63 million to roll over for some reason? That has yet to be seen, but we will follow that and find out. I think his cap hit like next season and the season after that is still like $72 million each, though. So still not a great contract in my opinion, but
definitely
it is what
not.
it is.
Definitely not. I mean, it's still not. I mean, I think this whole trade probably is questionable still to this day. I mean,
yeah,
no matter what you put on the contract, no matter how you restructure it, I think the entirety of the situation is just tough for the Browns. I definitely, I feel for you guys. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I just never liked this contract or this situation at all. So, but we have to follow it now because they did it. Anyway, Mike Williams, the Jets' new wide receiver, is expected to be available for week 1 for the New York Jets for Aaron Rodgers to throw footballs to.
Huge for him.
Huge. Big moves. Taylor Heineke was traded from the Atlanta Falcons to the LA Chargers for a 7th-round pick that could become a 6th-round pick. He will now be Justin Herbert's backup. And I kind of wondered if he would be traded because they kept him on the roster, but obviously they drafted Michael Penix Jr., who was pretty much solidified as the backup for Kirk Cousins this season, and clearly they had plans to trade him. And then Chuz actually pointed this out to me. Brandon Ayuk is not practicing at all now and hasn't been, but he is now getting fined for it. Chus, you had the number. What What was that number that he?
Yeah. So the number was let me just pull this back up again. $45,769. It could be up to that amount per day. So you're looking at, I guess, pocket change for him, but a year's worth of salary for some people in the United States. So that is definitely a lot per day, mind you, just for him not showing up to practice.
Yeah. So, and we aren't going to ignore the other wide receiver who's quote unquote holding out. We'll talk about that later in the show. Of course, I mean Jamar Chase. Trying to avoid talking about it, but now I think we kind of have to. Jelani Woods is out for the season with a toe injury. He missed the entire NFL season last year with a hamstring injury. He's a 2022 rookie, so he has now missed 2 out of 3 of his NFL seasons. The Indianapolis Colts did have a tight end battle going on. They had some tight end depth in the preseason that was shown off, and now all of a sudden that battle shrunk a little bit, and this kind of helped. I don't want to say help, but it kind of did help them out if he's going to be out for the entire season.
I mean, it'll be interesting. I think, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just think it'll be interesting because I continue to think that maybe after J.K. Dobbins missed 2 seasons in Baltimore and now going back to the Chargers, I think that J.K. Dobbins could have a little bit of a shining moment. Maybe this guy, considering he's injured, he's been out for the season twice now. Maybe if he goes somewhere else that isn't Indianapolis, he'll shine, or maybe this is the downfall for him, unfortunately. I mean, two tough injuries. I mean, what was the toe injury? Do you know? Was it just turf toe? Was it a
turf toe? I believe
it's tough, man. But yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I know Colts fans were really excited about him too. So he had a decent. I mean, he only started in 2 games in 2022, but he played in 15. Had 25 receptions for 312 yards and 3 touchdowns. So fans are excited about him getting more snaps, but they just haven't seen that yet. Now let's move on to some guys that made the NFL rosters. And a guy Chus talked about a lot was, of course, Peyton Wilson out of NC State. He is made it. Anthony Gould, who I was super excited about for the Indianapolis Colts, he made it. And they did not actually sign all of their drafted rookies. Micah Abraham got cut. He is one I know off the top of my head who was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts and did not make it. Muma Jungmeta, my favorite undrafted free agent this year, made the Cincinnati Bengals roster. I have already bought my number 45 Jungmeta jersey, so I am super excited for him. And of course, these rosters, aren't set in stone. I mean, we pretend that they are, but the Bengals have already cut and then re-signed Travion Williams so that they could bring in KJ Henry as an edge rusher because the Bengals need edge depth. Chus and I were talking a little bit before the show about what he was surprised about for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll get into kind of more of the Bengals drama stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Steelers cuts, I mean, obviously, I wasn't shocked necessarily on all of the players that they cut. I mean, I figured it's the standard on who they cut, and I figured they would keep most of the players, like the key players and whatnot. I guess being kind of like nitpicking what their decisions were, there's 2 players that I kind of was a little disappointed by. I mean, I don't think it's the end of the world for the Steelers by them cutting these 2 players, but I was kind of disappointed about Quez getting cut. I think that with a wide receiver room being not that competitive, considering we only have George Pickens as our wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 and 3 are pretty much a toss-up. It could literally be anyone. I think having him on there would have probably been very helpful. I mean, obviously you have Van Jefferson and Roman Wilson, but I think he could have been a pretty good, wide receiver 4 or 5, but I understand the situation. I mean, they brought in a bunch of random wide receivers and are kind of hoping that one of them sticks. So I think 5 made the initial roster. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. I don't remember the other 2. I'm sorry. I just can't. I know I'm a bad person. I know I'm a bad Steelers fan, but yeah, I know. I'm a little disappointed by that, but I mean, I understand the situation. Another one I was a little disappointed by was Pirine. I know that he was running back, And I understand that we already have Warren, Najee, and Cordell Patterson, but he was fun to watch, and I thought that he showed a lot of promise. And I think had Cordell not been signed, I feel like he probably would have had a spot on the roster, but that's just me. So I was a little disappointed by that. Plus, he was younger. So, but I mean, he's younger than Cordell Patterson. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's younger than at least two of the running backs. So it would have definitely been not. It wasn't your P Ryan.
You're talking about LaMichael, right?
Yeah, LaMichael P Ryan.
Yeah. He's 2021, I think.
Yeah, so he would have been younger at least than Cordell Patterson for one. So it just would have been. I mean, Cordell Patterson looked all right in preseason. He did tally a touchdown, maybe even more. I didn't really follow along too much this preseason as I have in the past, but I mean, like if they're able to utilize him and Najee and Warren, then so be it. But yeah, a little disappointed by those two. But I feel like that's just being nitpicky. I don't really think I'm like over the top angry. I mean, I feel like in Houston, I feel like the situation was tough over there because, I mean, their wide receiver core, I wish I had their wide receiver core. They had to cut freaking Noah Brown just because they didn't have the room for him. I mean, I wish I had that many wide receivers that were that dang good, but I mean, that's why I was kind of being nitpicky with Quez. I mean, we can work with Roman Wilson, Van Jefferson, and George Pickens as your starters, but maybe the Steelers will pick up Noah Brown. That'd be very helpful. I think that could help, but that's just, like I said. But I'm fine with the moves that they made, So
Texans also had to cut Ben Skoranek, who they traded for with the Rams,
which is crazy.
So I mean, not that Ben is like some superstar or anything, but he is a Super Bowl champion. LA Rams. So
they just Houston's a team this year. I wouldn't want to be playing them this year.
Yeah. So currently, just so people know, the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver starters are Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin III, and George Pickens.
Calvin Austin. That was the other guy. Yeah, I forgot about him.
Roman Wilson and Scotty Miller as the backups.
Yeah, I feel like Quez could have made it. I don't really. I mean, not that I don't mind Scotty. Calvin Austin III really hasn't shown me too much. I just feel like the wide receiver core is like open over in Pittsburgh. I feel like you should have given him a little bit of a chance. But like I said, I guess I'm just being nitpicky. I mean, once Roman Wilson comes back from injury, maybe he'll shine a lot more. I mean, he's been dealing with that ankle injury. So, but yeah, maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe this whole situation will be crazy, and maybe our best wide receiver won't even be Pickens. Maybe it'll be Van Jefferson. Maybe Van Jefferson will have 12 touchdowns this year, and Russell Wilson will have 30 or something. I don't know. And 12 of them are to Van Jefferson.
Well, so we've talked about, I guess, kind of I'm going to say lackluster. I get these guys are talented, but I'm not impressed by the Steelers wide receiver. Maybe it's because the Bengals wide receiver room is just so deep. But the Steelers wide receiver, I mean, come on, Van Jefferson,
That's why I said it's a competitive it's easily a competitive wide receiver room. It's not anything. That's why all Steelers fans have been saying, get Brandon Ayuk, bring in literally anybody, because Van Jefferson's always been a certified wide receiver 3, if not 4. And it's nothing against him. It's just how he's been on the chart. So you put him in there with, it's him and Calvin Austin III. Like, that is a crazy wide receiver room with George Pickens. Like, that is insane. Like, you could have gotten literally, Tyler Boyd, I guess, or anybody, literally anybody. Put anybody in there.
Tyler Boyd is the Tennessee Titans emergency quarterback, by the way. That was announced today.
Oh, that's actually phenomenal. I mean, hey, he's
so Mason Rudolph, better watch out. Tyler Boyd's coming.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd's going to take his job. Just like, I was going to say Terrell Pryor, but I don't think really Terrell Pryor could have done anything. But shout out to Terrell Pryor, who was once a quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks turned wide receiver in Cleveland.
So we know who's going to be throwing to this lackluster Steelers wide receiver room, and that is Russell Wilson. This isn't really a shock. I think everyone knew that. But Justin Fields is on the team. There were some people who was maybe like, like, maybe he could start, but he looked rough in the preseason. He had some pre-snap issues, and I don't know that was all on him. I think part of it was working with a new and even rookie young offensive line. But I saw something that said it's easier to bench Russell for Justin Fields midseason than it is to bench Justin Fields for Russell Wilson midseason. Do you think there's any truth to that?
No, I think it's probably, well, there's a couple things. There's a couple factors with this. Number one, when they signed Russell Wilson, the whole Kenny Pickett scandal that began in the earlier part of the year was the idea that Russell Wilson was going to be quarterback 1 and Kenny Pickett was going to be QB2, regardless of what Kenny thought. And that is why Kenny got traded. He threw his little fit, and then now he's in Philadelphia, barely somehow making it. But he is on the roster, and he is their QB2, I'm assuming, because, they actually invested something in him. But putting the Kenny Pickett thing aside, Russell Wilson was always slated to be quarterback 1, regardless of who was going to be behind him, whether it was going to be Mason Rudolph, whether it was going to be Justin Fields, whether it was going to be some random quarterback that we were going to draft, let's say Bo Nix. Yeah, because I love Bo Nix. I don't know. I'm just saying, just random quarterback. Anybody. You could literally throw anybody out there. It's somebody random behind him. Taylor Heineke. I don't care. You throw somebody behind him. It was always going to be Russell Wilson. And just so happened to be Justin Fields, former starter in Chicago, just happened to get the short end of the stick. And I think another thing that people aren't realizing is Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, with this trade that they did, the draft pick is lower if Justin Fields doesn't start a certain amount of snaps. So if they can start Justin Fields later in the season and he only snaps the ball for like 40% of snaps, I believe it's still a 6th-round pick. But if he snaps like 50%, it'll jump up to a 4th or something like that. But either way, like there's a little bit more stock value in not starting him anyway, because number one, you already have Russell Wilson, who's only signed for a 1-year deal. He's a veteran who'll be working with a bunch of young guys, hopefully help develop Justin Fields. And maybe, depending on if Russell Wilson gets hurt, maybe if Russell Wilson looks bad, you can pull in Justin Fields, who could supposedly be your future, or you dump both of them, which is terrifying to consider because this is a weird year for Pittsburgh. I don't think people are like considering this, but this is a really interesting year because Russell Wilson's on a year deal. Justin Fields, I mean, would you bring him on for a 5th-year option? Like, what are you going to do here? Because if they both do bad, do you let go of both of them and you have no quarterbacks? Like, what do you do? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be an interesting year because obviously, how long would you be willing to invest in Russell Wilson? He's already, I would argue he's probably already past his prime. I mean, I feel like most people could say that he's older. I mean, you can't put your franchise into him because he's only going to be playing for 5 seasons max is my prediction. And then Justin Fields showed some sign of light in Chicago, but can he do it in Pittsburgh's offense? Could he still do it here? Is he a bust? Is he a Mitchell Trubisky 2.0? Like what are we expecting here? I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know. But there's a lot of things that are yet to be seen. I mean, I'm a lot bigger on Justin Fields than I am Mitchell Trubisky or even Russell Wilson at times. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, but I'm not shocked by the news. I already kind of figured this was going to happen. It was just a wait and see, waiting for the official announcement that Russell Wilson was going to be QB1 for the Falcons game.
Do you think Russell Wilson gets TJ Watt his first playoff win as a Pittsburgh Steeler?
It really depends on where we're at in the standings at that point. I mean, I think number one, first of all, it depends on if TJ Watt is hurt, because TJ Watt tends to get hurt a lot just because he puts his body and life out into the game every single week. And I applaud him for that, and I appreciate that. But sometimes I kind of feel bad because he ends up putting the team on his back and ends up hurting his back. So, I mean, it's a tough situation for him. But I think he could. But the problem that we face is the wide receiver core is still not there. So, I mean, you would really have to hope for like a Calvin Austin III or a Roman Wilson, well, specifically like a Roman Wilson to like turn into some sort of like Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison and be like this insane player that flips the entire Steelers roster upside down, where you're like, oh my goodness, this guy's actually good. Or when Juju came in and started playing really well and you're like, oh my gosh, where did this guy come from? Or even Antonio Brown, he's a 6th-round pick and all of a sudden he's popping off, getting these return touchdowns. We're like, oh, this guy's going to be good. And then all of a sudden he becomes the legendary Antonio Brown before he fell off. But I mean, I will just leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, I think he could, but it's very situational, and also really depends on who we play and where we're at in the wild card race. Because obviously, I don't think the Steelers are going to win the division. I never really thought the Steelers were going to win the division. I did put my $50 free bonus bet on DraftKings on it, just for fun. But I don't really think the Steelers are going to. But if they happen to win the division, it'll be a very nice New Year surprise for me to win however much money I would win. But that being said, that would probably put us at the highest wild card 5, and you would have to hope that whoever wild card 4 would be, assuming Miami, I guess, maybe based on how I've done this assumption before. I've kind of done this, probably either Miami or it would probably be Miami would probably be my assumption. I don't know if we could go and beat Miami in Miami. I just don't know if we could do it. And we've done it before, but I don't know. I mean, it really depends on what our team looks like at that point. And that would be depending on if we got the 5th seed. If we got the 6th seed, and maybe it's not Miami, maybe it ends up being like Houston for some reason. I don't think we're beating Houston. Or I don't, I don't know. And then, but if you end up playing like a divisional team, like, like Cincinnati or a Baltimore or even a Cleveland or something, you're like, oh, could go either way. So I don't know.
That's crazy to me. I saw that stat that TJ Watt has never won a playoff game, and that's just wild to me because he's been in the league since 2017.
Yes.
The Steelers have been, I mean, they've had a winning record forever, and just the fact that they haven't won a playoff game in that time is crazy.
It's disappointing.
But,
I mean, his first year that he was a rookie, 2017 Steelers season. I gotta look this up because I want to remember not the 2007 season. Google, what are you doing? 2017. I wanted to look this up because I always tend to forget. I always get 2016 and 2017 mixed up. So, this is right. It is the Jacksonville Jaguars loss. Yeah, that was a bad one because I always forget that 2016 was the Patriots one. And even though it's just the whole thing. But regardless, like we lose to Jacksonville, and then you have just the monstrosity with the 2019 season and it's just really hard. It's just really hard because I can like look at this and in 2018 we didn't qualify because we went 9-6-1, and then in 2019 we went 8-8, and that was our Hodges season, and that crazy season. And then we had
Laney
the 2020.
Wilson's boyfriend.
Yes. And then we had
Shout
the 2020. Laney Wilson. And then we had the 20. What were you going to say?
I was listening to her album before we started.
Yeah, so shout out Laney Wilson for Josh. And then in 2020, like I said, it was a collapse after Washington, and it was the COVID year. We lose to the Browns. And then in 2021, we were slated for disaster. We were against Kansas City. And then in 2022, we did not qualify because Joe Flacco folded. And then in 2023, lost to the Bills. I mean, I think our best shot would have been probably some of the teams that we had before. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. We just don't have the team. I don't know what's been happening with it, but it's just been unfortunate. I don't even know who you blame at that point. I mean, you can blame Tomlin, you can blame the coordinators. I just think the Steelers have been very unfortunate. They've been really disappointing for me. So I'm hoping that this year is the year that they at least win a wild card game somehow, some way.
You're like the most realistic Steelers fan I've ever met.
Really?
The others are all like, Russell Wilson's going to have a resurrection, and we're going to the Super Bowl. I mean, this is easy. Like, Steelers fans talking trash on Twitter.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I do a football podcast, and I can see all perspectives based on everything. And the perspective is that the last couple of years, I have always kind of crapped on Russell Wilson, and now he is a Steeler, and I can't crap on him anymore. And that's fine because I support Russell Wilson as a Steeler. But the fact being is still in the back of my mind, I still remember the stupid meme that we had when we first started this show about if he would throw more touchdowns than he had bathrooms in his house with the Broncos. And I won't forget that. I mean, that was an entire situation. Granted, the Broncos were not good, but it's still a situation where the wide receiver core in Pittsburgh isn't that good either. I mean, you have George Pickens, but if you double cover George Pickens, you really have to hope that Calvin Austin III or Van Jefferson's catching that ball, unless Roman Wilson gets in there, or I guess Scotty Miller. You know, we don't have that deep of a thing, or we just have to hope that the run game works and the line holds up and all these different things. But I mean, I haven't been very optimistic over the last couple of years. Now, if this was like a 2010s, like a mid 2010s with Antonio Brown, I'd be all over this. I'd be like, we're winning it all. I mean, I would have, but I got to be a little bit realistic here, and I don't really know what to expect.
Yeah, the Russell Wilson touchdown to bathroom chart was definitely an interesting era of NFL.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And now this guy that everybody was memeing on, which probably included Steelers fans. I mean, I am one, and I memed on him, is now a Steeler. And yes, he did do better than he did that year with the bathrooms, but it's still a situation where it's like, will he perform better? I mean, he didn't really have a hot start last year in Denver either. Like I said, maybe it's Denver, maybe it's the differences in coaches and stuff. I mean, Mike Tomlin, there's a reason that although Mike Tomlin, it's the standard, I get it, and like, yeah, he may not have won a playoff game since the Obama administration, but like, a point being is that there are players that really want to play for Mike Tomlin, and maybe Russell Wilson and some of these players will, maybe work better under his coaching. But I don't know. I'm just spitballing. I'm hoping.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the team that's going to win the Super Bowl this season, because I am completely delusional. I think we can win
Texans?
But I no, not the Houston Texans.
Green Bay Packers?
No. What the heck? No.
The 49ers?
No. Have you seen? Okay, sidetrack. I saw something earlier that the NFL posted that was like, which of these offenses would you rather have? And it was the Eagles and the Packers. And no one was saying the Packers. Not a single person in the comment section said the Packers.
Well, they're just sleeping on the Packers. I think I can't wait to talk about the divisions and stuff next week with you, because listen, I think people are sleeping on the Packers for that small situation. I mean, come on. I mean, I arguably, I don't know. I mean, both offenses are not bad. I mean, considering, I mean, come on. You think about it. Philly's got a pretty star-studded offense too. You got Saquon back there, and then everyone forgets that in Green Bay they got Josh Jacobs in the backfield now with Reed and all of those crazy wide receivers over there as well. I mean, come on. You can't keep out Green Bay in there.
I'm Here's a teaser to next week when we apparently are going to talk about the Green Bay Packers.
No, we're going to talk about all the divisions. We're going to go through all of the divisions and talk about our way too early predictions and see if we're correct.
Well, you're going to be wrong about the Packers. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, let's move to Ja'Marr Chase. I have to talk about him. I have been avoiding talking about him because I didn't really think that this was as big of a story as the national media was making it. Adam Schefter loves to dog on the Cincinnati Bengals because they don't provide him with information. And he literally went on ESPN and said, I haven't been told anything, but I have to imagine Ja'Marr Chase isn't happy. So he's just like making stuff up. But anyway, the problem with Ja'Marr Chase now that I have, and I don't really think most of the time when players are holding out for a new contract, they are a distraction. Most of the time. There are exceptions. And so I didn't think Ja'Marr was really that much of a distraction. He was still practicing on his own. That's cool, whatever. He practiced a little bit last week and into this week. And Zach Taylor came out and said, super excited to have Ja'Marr back. He's going to be with us the rest of the week, rest of the season. We're ready to go. And then Ja'Marr Chase wasn't. He sat out literally the day after Zach Taylor said that. So they asked Zach Taylor about it. Zach Taylor's like, yeah, I put my foot in my mouth on that one. So I don't like that. I think Ja'Marr should have to come out and kind of explain what happened. Like, was there a negotiation that they thought was going to happen? So he started practicing and then all of a sudden something fell through, or what happened? Because, and I don't think Zach Taylor is going to hold this against Ja'Marr Chase at all, but it, in my opinion, looks bad when your coach, who has been supporting you this entire time, mind you, because Zach Taylor's always been very supportive of the players, all the players, whether it's been Joe or T or Jamar. And Zach says something, and then you make him look really bad. You make him look like he doesn't know what's going on, which I don't know. Long term, how much is this going to really affect things? Probably not that much. I just don't like the look personally. I don't think Jamar Chase misses a week 1 game. I don't think he'd go that far. But and again, I don't want to hold this against Jamar because I get people are saying, oh, he still has 2 years left on his contract. He needs to fulfill his contract. But also in the contract, it says he can start negotiating after 3 seasons. So he is within his rights. We know what Jamar Chase should be getting paid because CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Justin Jefferson have all already been signed. Like the number has been set. So I don't know what we're waiting on. But yeah, so that's the first wide receiver drama we got to get into. And like I said, again, I'm not worried about him sitting out. I get it. His body is his paycheck effectively. So I understand that part. I'm not bad about that part. The part that got me was him making it seem like he was going to come back, Zach Taylor vouching for him, and then him kind of making Zach Taylor look bad. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that as a non-Bengals fan?
I mean, I've never been a real big fan of players sitting out when waiting for a contract. I mean, I've kind of had that same mentality since I was probably probably 14 or something, just because of the whole Le'Veon Bell thing with him sitting out for the entire season, which I still think was ridiculous. I mean, it killed his career. He probably should have kept playing. I always thought that sitting out was ridiculous, and Melvin Gordon did it, and that was ridiculous. Now, those were extended periods of time. I don't think Jamar Chase would probably wait out that long just because there's a lot more at stake. I mean, then again, I don't know what's going through his head, because I was going to initially say, I was like, well, maybe compared to like the Chargers with like Melvin Gordon, they weren't really in that place to win per se. But then then again, looking on a different perspective, without Le'Veon Bell, you would expect, like Le'Veon Bell was a huge part of the Steelers in that year, but we had to rely on our other running backs and whatnot. But I mean, from an outside perspective, from me, and like I said, I have just a different ideology than maybe other people, but I think it's ridiculous that he's sitting out. I think Brandon Ayuk sitting out is ridiculous. I think both of it is ridiculous. I think it's stupid. I understand you want to protect your body and stuff like that, but you're not proving anything by sitting. You prove more when you're on the field. And that's just me. I mean, I understand. I get it. But if it rolls into like a week 1 type thing or something like that, I think that's stupid. I think that's ridiculous.
Right.
But,
yeah. No. If he sits out week 1, I think that becomes a bigger issue. And he hasn't.
Because then
really...
at that point, it shows me that his character, he wouldn't deserve a contract at that point. And I know that's me being like really like a stretch, because Jamar Chase is probably, if not, I mean, he's definitely top 3 wide receiver in the league. I mean, you can't really not argue that. I mean, you maybe could, but you put him up there with, JJ and probably maybe CD, I guess would be your top 3 with Chase. And I mean, he's a top 3. I get it, but it's still, I mean, I understand the situation, but I mean, eventually over time, there's going to be a situation where you sit out and then somebody overshines you, like T. Higgins and Yoshi Voss, and all of a sudden you're left in the and then that's exactly what happened in LA. Melvin Gordon sat out and was like, I'm the best running back ever, or whatever he said, and then Austin Eckler started lighting it up. Melvin Gordon came back week 8. The Chargers were like, we don't want you anymore. We want Eckler. He looks great. And I get that Chase is still, like I said, a top 3. It's different than Melvin Gordon, who was probably at that time maybe a top 10 running back, or a top 15, maybe even was probably his floor. But I don't know. It's definitely an interesting scenario. I can't believe that this is happening. I'm assuming you guys would make a deal with Chase. I mean, unless you guys are cooking something up and expecting to dump him, but I don't know. That'd be crazy.
I saw Browns fans were trying to like make mock trades with Jamar Chase. And I was like,
I mean, I think, well, for one, don't listen to Browns fans, but two, I guess it's not technically out of the question to make a mock trade for Chase, just because then at that point you're relying in T to be wide receiver 1, and you're relying on the new wide receivers that you've been drafting as your wide receivers 2s and 3s, because you were really high on that other guy that you've been talking about. I already forget his name, but the one wide receiver.
We're going to talk about him here in a minute.
Yeah. So, and I think that with you talking about him, I mean, what if he blows up, and then you still have Yoshi Voss as your wide receiver 3, or any one of these arguments that you could make for some of these receivers. You theoretically have a bunch of above average wide receivers, and you don't necessarily need to keep Chase, and you could get a whole lot of haul for him, maybe a lot of defensive help that, although may not be necessarily needed, but you tweak some things and you guys have a crazy team all of a sudden. Not that you don't already, but I mean, it's just, you look at the different perspectives and stuff like that. I mean, I understand why people are making mock trades.
But I think Chase elevates, and I actually think so. The guy you're talking about is Jermaine Burton. He's the third round rookie out of this year. I think Chase being on the team actually allows Jermaine Burton to get snaps quicker, because Jamar has versatility. He's not just a wideout. He can line up in the slot. He can line up wherever you need him to. And then you can fill Jermaine in, who is a very similar wide receiver to Jamar Chase. I think he's more similar to Jamar than he is to T. You can line up Jermaine where you would normally have Jamar, if you want to move Jamar around a little bit. And then you also have Mike Gesicki, who, again, isn't a traditional tight end, and I think is part of the reason the Bengals kept 5 tight ends on their 53-man roster. They kept Mike Gesicki, Drew Sample, who I think is probably going to also line up at fullback or H-back a little bit, Tanner Hudson, and then both rookies in Eric All and Tanner McLaughlin, who both showed a ton of promise in the preseason. So you have versatility in the receiving room between the wide receivers and the tight ends. You can do a lot. But Jamar Chase elevates all of that. Mm-hmm. And his chemistry with Joe Burrow elevates all of that. People have given the example of Patrick Mahomes losing Tyreek Hill and then still going on to win a Super Bowl. And they've said, well, if Joe Burrow is as good as Bengals fans think he is, then why is it such a big deal for him to lose Jamar Chase? In my opinion, this is more akin to Patrick Mahomes losing Travis Kelce, not Tyreek Hill. Because Tyreek Hill is a fantastic wide receiver, and he's the lead, he's top 5 easily, maybe even top 3. But I think Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have that rapport. They have that chemistry that has been developed. And if the Chiefs were to trade Travis Kelce away, that would have a huge effect on the team, especially now. Mm-hmm. I get where Chase is coming from. I get where you're coming from, why you don't like it. If he starts sitting out week 1, this becomes an entirely different story. It'll be interesting to see where it goes, but I don't think that'll happen. I'm hoping we get a deal done before week 1, but or at least like restructure his current deal a little bit, if that's even possible. But let's move on to Jermaine Burton, who is the other Bengals wide receiver who's had a little bit of drama. So if you didn't watch the video I made about this, which was more of a rant yelling at Bengals fans on Twitter, or X, Jermaine Burton, he's the rookie wide receiver out of Alabama. He's had a history of off-field issues, or on-field issues, really. He accidentally, I don't know if it was accidental, probably intentional. He hit a lady who rushed the field at the Tennessee game in Alabama. So not a great look. That was the big one during the game. But anyway, he's said that he's really working on pulling that back, controlling himself, and that's good. But what really kind of got Bengals fans riled up was during a catch that he made that was like for 80 some yards. Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels said, you can't be sleeping through film sessions. You can't be sleeping through meetings. And of course, Bengals fans immediately are like, what do they know? And like started freaking out and started calling him lazy all of a sudden and saying like, oh, this is an issue. but they never actually indicated whether this was during his NFL career, whether this was during his college career, whether they were even really talking about something they knew Jermaine Burton was doing, or if it was just like, well, obviously you can't be sleeping through meetings as a rookie. Like that's just common knowledge. So one of the Bengals Talk Sports Illustrated reporters, who I want to get her name here, I got to pull it up, but she actually asked Jermaine Burton, like, what are people talking about here? What does this mean? Should people be worried? And he said in his interview that he didn't even know what Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels were talking about. Now, of course, he could be, just saying stuff, but Elise Jesse, I believe is her name, asked Jermaine Burton, and he said, like, he didn't even know about it. His mom was watching the game, and she like texted him or called him and was like, "Hey, like, what is this that they're talking about? Are you sleeping through meetings?" So Mama Burton got on him about it, and he seemed kind of confused by the whole situation. So I guess he's just gonna have to prove himself at this point, because I think he shows a ton of talent. He's super athletic. He's super fun. But yeah, if he's sleeping through meetings, that's problematic.
I don't know. I mean, if he says that he's not, and there's no entire truth to the situation, then I wouldn't take it as anything.
I'm not worried about it. I was never.
I knew you weren't. I knew you weren't. I'm talking more about like other, fans and other Bengals fans and stuff.
I don't think it's a deal. I don't think it's an issue. I don't even think it's a thing. It was so off the cuff and random that I don't think that they had any indication. They didn't say like, so and so says he's been sleeping through meetings, or like we have. It was just like literally like, this is an example of things you can't be doing as a rookie. It was sleeping through meetings.
Yeah, I mean, which is possible that it could have just been something like that.
So we'll see. But yeah, he's not. And the other thing that kind of fueled this was he wasn't receiving kind of starter or even second string snaps in the preseason. He was like getting a lot of fourth quarter play. So Bengals fans are like, he's being punished.
But I don't know. I mean, he's a rookie. I mean, they throw you all over the place in the preseason.
People like to make drama.
I get it.
Try to keep a solid head on my shoulders, and then make drama.
Listen. I've grown a lot since my toxic days. I'm not as toxic as I once was.
Chus isn't toxic anymore.
I mean, well, no, don't say that. I definitely have my moments, but I'm not as toxic as I once was. I would come on the show every week and be complaining about something.
I ain't as toxic as I once was. I'm as toxic once as I ever was.
We can make an AI song about it, because artificial intelligence is crazy.
They had the Toby Keith tribute last night, so we got all these Toby Keith songs in my head.
Rest up, Toby Keith.
R.I.P. I still remember that night that he passed away. Sad. Okay, we're gonna move on before I start crying.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett has been named the Week 1 starter.
Oh wow!
For the New England Patriots.
Hey, this is big news coming out of New England.
This is huge, and you might be wondering, why the heck are we talking about? Why do we care? Well, that's because the Cincinnati Bengals play the New England Patriots Week 1, and we were kind of wondering who we'd get to see. Who is Jordan Battle going to be picking off? Who's going to be getting sacked by Trey Hendrickson? It appears Jared Mayo, head coach of the New England Patriots, has selected Jacoby Brissett as the victim.
Also,
now,
I do have a question though. This is kind of like off topic. You mentioned Jordan Battle. Could I get a long sleeve T-shirt for the bet?
Hey, wait! I gotta take this photo down.
Yeah, real quick, and like just
sidebar.
We can go back to this in a second. I was just thinking about it. I know I said I was gonna get a shirt, but I don't know if I want a shirt, because I have a lot of shirts and I don't think I'll ever wear it. I was just wondering if I could, have a long sleeve instead.
I think so. I think that can be allowed.
Okay. I was just wondering, just because I was like, I just literally while you were talking about Chase, I was like, oh, I'm going to look up Jordan Battle stuff right now, and I looked it up, and they had shirts, and I was like, yeah, but like I have like a Buffalo Bills DeMar Hamlin shirt that I like wore like once this summer, and I know that like an AFC rival, I'm not gonna wear that much. So if I'm forced to wear it, I might as well get a long sleeve because I only have a certain amount of long sleeves, and I'll probably wear it a little bit more than I would wear a t-shirt. But I was just wondering.
Yeah, so for the people who don't know why he has to buy a Jordan Battle shirt, it's because I said we made a bet that Jordan Battle would get an interception last season, and he did it, I think, in the final game of the season.
It was one of the final games. It was either the last game or the second to last game, and I don't remember which one, but the idea was if he got an interception or a fumble recovery, I would buy a shirt. If it was a pick six or a scoop six, it would be a jersey. And he didn't get any points from it, but he did get the interception. So I was going to stick to my bet, but money's been tight. So I've been trying to organize my money in the best way possible. And I figured, why buy another shirt when I can buy a long sleeve when I need long sleeves? So
there you go. You can rep Jordan Battle at the Week 1 Pittsburgh Steelers game.
I'll not be doing that, but yeah, continue.
Jacoby Brissett.
Yes, Jacoby Brissett.
He is the victim, but there is a contingent of Patriots fans that wanted Drake May to start after having a pretty good preseason. Decent. He had some ups, he had some downs. It was a journey.
Rookie. He's a rookie guy.
Yeah. But also Joe Milton, also a rookie, had some ups, had some downs. Super athletic, super fun, super funky, super fresh. He late round pick. You know, Patriots fans love those late round picks in their desperate attempt to find the next Tom Brady. But what are your thoughts, I guess, about starting a rookie Week 1? Because the Bengals, when Joe Burrow came in, didn't have anyone to start. Like, there was no selection. They'd gotten rid of Andy. I don't like that phrasing, but basically had gotten rid of Andy Dalton. So Joe Burrow was the only option. I kind of understand wanting to let them sit for a little bit and wait when you have a guy like Michael Penix Jr. has Kirk Cousins. You know Kirk Cousins is going to start. Jacoby Brissett, to me, though, isn't a guy who needs to start. He doesn't have to start. And you spent a 3rd overall pick, I believe I'm remembering that correctly, on Drake May.
I
think he was the 3rd overall pick.
Keep thinking in my head 3rd overall was Daniels.
I think he was 2nd. I will check, but I am pretty sure Drake.
What about Marvin Harrison Jr.? Wasn't he 2nd?
You might be right.
I thought Drake May have been 4th or 5th.
Oh no, Marvin Harrison Jr. was 4th. Drake May was 3rd. Daniels was 2nd.
Dang. Okay, I thought Daniels was 3rd. Okay, well, you were right then. You good on you, man. Good on you.
Anyway, but you spent this pick, and now how long do you wait behind a guy like Jacoby Brissett?
The problem is it's really dependent on the coach and what you're looking at. I mean, obviously New England has a new coach, so you don't want to put him immediately on the hot seat. I feel that, or he probably doesn't immediately want to put himself on the hot seat by starting somebody like Drake May, like on game 1 when you don't really know what to necessarily expect. I personally think it's one of those things where it's kind of a toss up in the air, because I mean the Steelers did the same thing. It was a situation where they had Mitchell Trubisky start Week 1, and eventually Kenny Pickett went in, and then Kenny Pickett started the rest of the season. I mean, it very well could happen with Jacoby Brissett. The only difference is Jacoby Brissett is consistent. So if the Patriots want a little bit of consistency, just to try to get their feet, moving again, I guess you could say, in New England, Jacoby Brissett isn't a bad option. But I mean, you don't necessarily need Brissett to start, but I think that they're doing this out of like a precautionary thing, because you also don't want to throw somebody like Drake May into the fire immediately. I mean, sometimes it can work, but sometimes it doesn't always work. I mean, for example, didn't Joe Burrow get hurt his rookie season?
Yeah, but I mean, that's not necessary.
but it was under the circumstances of, wasn't he like, didn't he get hurt off of a sack? Wasn't it like something that he got hurt off of?
His ACL or Achilles tore against the Commanders, I think they were by that point, or the Washington football team.
So the reason I just bring this up is because if there's certain key points that aren't necessarily ready, then there's a higher chance of them getting hurt. And I know that's a weird thing to like mention, but I mean, obviously with Joe Burrow starting, like it made sense and stuff like that, but it would have been a little more interesting if he didn't start right away, because maybe he wouldn't have torn his ACL that year. Maybe if, you guys would have had like Andy Dalton start, or even like Orion Finley start. Like, I know that sucks. Like, it's really ridiculous to say, but just like get him a little prepared before he jumps in. I think we will see Drake May probably at some point this season. I mean, Brissett also does get hurt a little bit, but I don't think New England is entirely ready to have a rookie quarterback behind them. I mean, you had Patrick Mahomes sit behind Alex Smith for an entire year before Mahomes went in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and Patrick Mahomes is going to probably be up there as one of the greatest to ever play the game. So, I mean, it's one of the things where it's like you let him sit for a year and he ends up being the greatest. If he would have went in week 2 or week 1, would he have been the same quarterback? I mean, I sometimes wonder that about Trevor Lawrence. I don't necessarily wonder that about Joe Burrow. I wonder that more about Lawrence, because I think Lawrence, who was coming into the NFL as this generational talent, this megastar, has been pretty much outshined by most of the quarterbacks in his class. I mean, I'm not saying that he isn't a good quarterback, but what?
Not in his draft class.
Oh, not in his draft class.
Okay. I thought that's what you were saying. That's like the Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones draft.
Oh yeah, no, not that draft class. I was thinking he was in a draft class with somebody else as well, but no, not shining in that sense. But when it comes to quarterbacks, I feel like most quarterbacks have been outshining him when it comes to at least first round picks, or even players that have been starting. I mean, you look at him. I mean, you go through the quarterback list. I feel like a lot of times, I mean, in certain situations, you would probably pick one quarterback over him in a lot of circumstances. I mean, you throw a quarterback at the wall and you let me know, and you might pick him over Lawrence. Now, like in a circumstance where it's like, oh, would you rather have Mac Jones or Trevor Lawrence? Yeah, you're probably going to pick Lawrence. I mean, there's probably different situationals, but I sometimes wonder, because also you have to worry about the confidence loss too, because for a franchise that has so much history behind it with being New England and Tom Brady, and a lot of reputation to uphold, considering they won 6 Super Bowls in the last 20 years. I mean, the circumstance also being is that Patriots fans, same thing as Steelers fans, are going to get very upset if Drake May starts playing really poorly in the offense that is not in his control, especially in a circumstance where the team isn't really anything right now. So you also have to consider the circumstance where it's like, well, if Drake May does start, well, we kind of have to hope that with him starting, that the fans don't turn on him by week 8 and they don't call for Jacoby Brissett to start. And you just kind of have to hope that it works. I mean, it does work sometimes. I mean, Houston lucked out. They had Stroud play really well. I mean, Anthony Richardson got hurt 2 weeks into the season last year. So we really never got to see somebody like him play. Jordan Love ended up being a player that started, I believe. Did he start week 1? I don't remember if he started week 1. I want to say he didn't.
He started week 1, like after sitting for 3 seasons.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, but I don't even remember where Jordan Love got drafted. He was nowhere.
He was a first round 2020 pick.
Okay, well then there you go. So I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, yeah, you had Aaron Rodgers there, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad idea to let him wait. I don't think it's a bad idea.
I get why it might not be a bad idea to wait, but so you mentioned Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. You got to remember, when Alex Smith was there with Patrick Mahomes, like Alex Smith was a guy at the time.
He was good.
And like Tom Brady sitting behind Drew Bledsoe. Drew Bledsoe was the guy in New England at the time. Like, no one is saying Jacoby Brissett is the guy. And I get waiting because the Patriots aren't going to be a good team. We know that.
No, and I don't think by putting Drake May into that fire, it's really going to help him. I think it might hurt him in the long run more than it'll help him by starting him initially week 1, having him play all 17 games, having them go 2-15, and then being like, oh, well, guess what? guess who's coming up this year? It's going to be this quarterback. The Patriots have the first overall pick. Do you dump Drake May away to get your first overall pick, just like Chicago did with Caleb Williams? I mean, Justin Fields, although isn't the greatest quarterback, but they dumped him. They were like, yeah, Fields is our guy. And then they were like, yeah, let's dump him because Caleb Williams, because they tanked. Or, well, they didn't tank. They just weren't good. It's one of those things where it's like, kind of have to, I mean, if you are sold on Drake May being the future, you might as well win a couple of games so that you don't have that pressure as a future, like when you're drafting next year. I don't know what quarterbacks are coming up next year. I don't know, but I'm sure there's probably at least a couple that are decent that might even be considered generational or first overall picks. And if the Patriots go 2-15 with Drake May, everyone's going to be like, nah, Drake May needs to leave. It's not Drake May. It's got to be this guy. It's going to be this guy. He's the generational talent. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad move necessarily. I mean, unless Jacoby Brissett looks terrible, or if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, please put him in. Don't. I mean, unless you think the other guy's good. What's his last name? Milton? Is that his last name?
Milton. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you think Milton's better than him. I mean, then put him in. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. You might as well let them wait at least a couple of weeks. I don't know. I mean, maybe I guess I could kind of see it with the idea where that guy is the guy, and you're in a situation where it's like Jacoby Brissett is not the guy. He's not going to be starting in New England for many years to come. But I mean, at least I don't know. At least let him wait a couple of weeks, because if he had his ups and downs, imagine what is going to happen to him. Because I mean, in their division, I guess you could pose maybe some threats. I mean, I personally don't think their division is anything to look at this year. I mean, I feel like if you did start Drake May and you're versing the Jets twice, you're versing the Dolphins twice, and you're versing the Bills twice. I really think that you could have a little bit of stardom in some of those games. Like I said, I don't think the Bills are the same team that they were last year. I don't think the Jets are going to live on. Stan's going to hate me for that. I don't think they're going to live up to the hype that they're building. And I think Miami would probably be the best team out of that division. So, I mean, I feel like there's points for him to shine, but I don't know if New England's improved enough to, warrant it. But that's just me rambling. You could disagree all you want. I don't care.
I just think at some point you have to say, okay, this is our guy. Whether it was Mac, the team wasn't good with Mac Jones either. I don't think Mac Jones was the guy, but eventually you can't keep doing this rotational thing. And that's what the Bears did. The Bears eventually said, Caleb Williams is our guy, and they put a team around him. They brought in Keenan Allen. They drafted Rome Odunze. They brought in DeAndre Swift. They brought in guys on the defense to help. Eventually, the Patriots have to say, this is going to be our guy. Yes, our team isn't where we want it to be right now, but in my opinion, you can't keep saying, oh, well, his first regular season game is going to be so stressful and hard, because he's at some point going to have to play that first regular season game. No matter who it's against, it's going to be against an NFL team, whether it's an awful NFL team or a good NFL team. And Joe Burrow getting hurt wasn't necessarily because of the fact that he started his rookie season. It was because his offensive line is all currently his offensive line that season is all currently made up of guys who are on waiver wires, except for Jonah Williams, who is in Arizona, who I feel bad for Joe, because he's going to have to deal with watching that guy and watching Kyler Murray run around like a toddler again, because Jonah Williams is not good. I got really heated.
Okay. Nah, I was just because I was just curious. When did you say Mac Jones got drafted?
Mac Jones was a 2021 rookie, first round pick.
Okay. So, and he started right away, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Because No, I don't.
Did they have Cam Newton?
No. It was 2020. I was looking because I was trying to figure that out. I was like, has New England done this before? Because initially I thought if Mac Jones got drafted in 2021, or in 2020, they had done this before, and it was under Bill Belichick when they had done this. So with Cam Newton, but they didn't know what they were doing. So, so this is a newer concept.
But we've seen it with other teams. We've seen it with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You've seen the fallout of this. where they put in Mason Rudolph one week, then they put in Kenny Pickett, then they put in Mitch.
Yeah, but
then
they
put in
also
another-
but they started Mitchell Trubisky for the first 4 weeks, and then they had Kenny Pickett start. It was like, I mean, the quarterback carousel never works, but the problem is like, I mean, what happened with the quarterback carousel was an interesting scenario because of the injuries that happened that last year. It was a circumstance in which Kenny Pickett got hurt, Mitchell Trubisky went in and also kind of got hurt. Mason Rudolph went in, and then Mason Rudolph played good. Mitch Trubisky was ready to return. Mason Rudolph was playing better. Obviously, he's going to start. Kenny Pickett came back. Mitch got pushed down the depth chart, but Kenny Pickett was also going to be QB2, maybe QB3, depending on how they were feeling that day. And Mason Rudolph was going to be the guy, and he was the guy. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, I feel like at that point, the Patriots would rather have a situation like that happen where they're like, at least maybe at the end of the season, the fans will rally behind Drake May, which isn't a bad idea to consider because at the point, everyone rallied around Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph's now QB2 somewhere where he should have been a QB2 his entire career, if not given a chance to be a QB1. And I think in Tennessee, I think I'm glad that he, like, I wish that he would have stayed, but I'm kind of glad that he left for the better of his career. But I mean, maybe I don't know what they're thinking. I remember, this is a new coach. This is not Bill Belichick. This is, what's his last name? Mayo.
Yeah, Gerard Mayo.
Yeah, ironic. Will Levis and Mayo. We talked about that last week. Yeah. Do you think Mayo likes Mayo?
I hope so. I hope so. But well, I guess we'll see what happens. But I just don't want it doesn't really affect me that much, I guess. But I just don't want to see them do this to the poor kid. Poor 3rd overall pick out of UNC, out of UNC. But
we'll see. I think he'll be good though. I just don't know. I don't know. I think they know what they're doing. I think even if I mean, like I said, Jacoby Brissett's always been consistent. So
yeah. Well,
let them cook. Let them cook.
Do you have anything else to say other than let them cook?
Let them cook. No, I don't. I think I'm good.
Okay. Let me know what you think down in the, or let Chus know what you think down in the comments, or whatever you think about anything about the world.
I'm sure somebody's going to disagree with me on something because somebody always disagrees with me on literally everything. So
it's a good system. Thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at No Buts Show. Our social media pages are No Buts Show, No Buts _show on Instagram and No Buts Show on TikTok. My Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. If you'd like to reach us, you can email us at bullmoosepodcast2. That's the number 2 at gmail.com. Finally, our spread shop will be in the description, so check out the merch. Once again, if you enjoyed today's show, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, go do something nice for someone.